I gave up everything to support my wife's dream. Then she left me for her intern. There. That's the sentence I never thought I'd say out loud. Not to my friends, not to my therapist, and definitely not to the internet. But sometimes, the truth only starts to breathe when you stop trying to bury it. Let me rewind. 4 years ago, I was the guy with a 5-year plan and a 10-year vision. I worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized firm in Manhattan. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I had dreams of launching my own tech startup, a SaaS tool to help small businesses automate their customer service. The kind of quiet innovation no one claps for, but everyone eventually depends on. Then I met Sophie. She was the type of person who made a room feel warmer just by walking in. Blonde curls that danced like they had their own thoughts, paint on her hands like permanent jewelry, and eyes that held 1,000 stories she hadn't told yet. She was a painter, not the starving kind, not yet, but the hungry kind. Hungry for recognition, for expression, for something big. We met at a friend's birthday party in Brooklyn. She was ranting to a stranger about how galleries only cared about money and curated mediocrity. I couldn't help but listen. And I couldn't help but speak. "You should open your own gallery then," I said, half joking, half impressed. She turned to me like I'd just said something prophetic. "That's the dream," she said, smiling. "But dreams cost rent." That night, we talked until the bartender kicked us out. She told me about the gallery she wanted to build, a place for raw, honest art. No pretentious crap. No gatekeepers. Just emotion on canvas and people who felt something real when they looked at it. I was smitten. Not just with her. With the way she talked about life like it owed her a masterpiece. On our third date, we sat in a cramped cafe in Queens, split a blueberry muffin, and she sketched me on a napkin. It looked nothing like me, but she called it the essence of Chad. I didn't get it, but I kept the napkin in my wallet anyway. 3 months later, she moved into my 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. The walls were thin, the radiator hissed like a snake, and the neighbors fought in 3 languages, but we had space for her easel. That was what mattered. One night, she said, "If I really want to do this gallery thing, I need time, like full time. I can't do it between bartending shifts." I remember exactly how she looked when she said it. Barefoot, in one of my old t-shirts, paint smudged across her cheek like war paint. And I remember what I said too: "If I can help you get there, I will." So I took on more hours. Picked up freelance coding gigs on weekends. Started teaching beginner Python at a local community center 3 nights a week. My 5-year startup plan quietly slid into the back of my desk drawer. We got married the next spring. Nothing fancy. Just a courthouse, 2 friends as witnesses, and a cheap bottle of Prosecco in the park afterward. She wore a white sundress. I wore a tie I borrowed from my boss. It wasn't perfect, but it felt intentional, like we were choosing each other, and that meant more than centerpieces or cake. She worked from home, creating, designing the layout for the gallery she dreamed of. She took meetings with small-time collectors, posted her art online, made connections. I kept the lights on. And honestly, I didn't resent it. Not at first. I believed in her. Believed in us. I thought, this is what love looks like. Sacrifice now, success later. Build her dream, and mine can wait. But looking back, maybe that was the moment I started becoming a side character in my own story. By the time Sophie's concept for the gallery had a name, Vessel, I had 3 jobs and barely 1 life. My mornings started at 6:30. I'd drag myself out of bed, careful not to wake her, and catch the subway into Manhattan for my day job. 9 to 5 in a cubicle that smelled like printer toner and burned coffee. My manager, Paul, thought crunch time was a permanent lifestyle, so no one dared leave before 6. At 6:30, I'd be on the train back to Queens or heading to the community center in Brooklyn, where I taught Python to teens. A few of them actually wanted to learn. Most were there because their parents made them. I didn't mind. I liked feeling like I was building something, even if it wasn't mine. Then came the freelance work, late nights, small business websites, database fixes, debugging nightmares for entrepreneurs who didn't understand the word deadline. Sometimes I worked from the cramped co-working space above a laundromat, where the Wi-Fi only worked near the window and the radiator sounded like it was coughing up ghosts. Sometimes I just sat there to nap in a chair between gigs. Meanwhile, Sophie was glowing. She hosted artist salons in our apartment. She had meetings with collectors, critics, influencers. Our place always smelled like wine and eucalyptus candles. And there were always new people, loud, opinionated, wearing things I didn't recognize as clothing, sprawled on our couch, debating post-narrative expression and decolonizing the white space of galleries. I stopped being part of those conversations the day I came home and someone looked at me and asked, "Are you the IT guy?" I wanted to say no, I'm the reason she has a place to dream at all. Instead, I smiled and said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." She started going out more. Art shows, rooftop installations, gallery openings with names like Noise and Silence or Everything is Temporary, but this wine is forever. I stopped asking to come. She stopped offering. One night, around 2 a.m., I came home from the community center, my backpack full of grading sheets and half-eaten granola bars. The apartment was dark except for the glow from her studio, her easel lit like a shrine, brushes still wet, a half-finished canvas staring at me like it knew something I didn't. She was asleep on the couch, curled up like a cat, empty wineglass on the floor. On the kitchen counter sat a plate of reheated pasta, cold and gummy. A little note next to it said, "Thought you might be hungry." I wasn't hungry. I was tired. Bone-deep tired. I sat on the edge of the couch and just stared at her for a while. Her face was peaceful in sleep, untouched by the constant hum of exhaustion that had become my background noise. And for the first time I wondered, when was the last time she asked how I was doing? When was the last time I asked myself? My voice had started to fade, not literally, but in the kind of way that makes you forget what you sound like when you're not filtering yourself for someone else's comfort. I thought love was sacrifice. But maybe I was just volunteering for pain. The next morning, she woke up around 10, stretched like she hadn't just slept through my entire day, and said, "You've been so moody lately." I was rinsing out my coffee cup. I didn't answer. She leaned against the doorframe in one of my old t-shirts, still her favorite thing to steal. "Seriously, Chad, you used to be light. Now it's like, you carry rain clouds with you." I looked at her, really looked. Her skin glowing with sleep, her fingers smudged with cobalt blue. And I didn't say what I wanted to, that I had traded in my light so she could shine brighter. Instead, I said, "I'm just tired." She nodded, like that explained everything. "Maybe you need a vacation." I almost laughed. Vacation? With what time? With what money? That afternoon I crashed on a beanbag in the co-working space and dreamt of a life where I could just be quiet, be creative, be something besides a support beam holding up someone else's dream. Sophie didn't mean to hurt me. At least, I don't think she did. She was just too busy becoming the person she always wanted to be, and I was too busy making sure she had the runway. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to check if I still had wings of my own. The grand opening of Vessel was everything Sophie had dreamed of: bright lights, curated playlists, walls dressed in colors and chaos, and a crowd that spoke fluent irony. And me? I was in the corner, holding a plastic flute of cheap champagne and wearing the only blazer I owned. It still had a dry cleaning tag from our wedding. Sophie floated through the gallery like she owned the air. People stopped her every few feet to compliment her vision, her bravery, her raw aesthetic. She kissed cheeks, posed for selfies, waved her hands when describing the energy behind the brushwork. I'd never seen her so alive. And I'd never felt more invisible. At some point, a young guy in a linen shirt and impossibly perfect hair slid up beside her. He wasn't just confident, he radiated the kind of easy charisma that made people want to laugh before he even told the joke. She turned toward him with that smile. That smile. The one I used to think was mine. I drifted closer, pretending to study a piece called Collapse Time, basically 4 squares of red on white. Just in time to hear her say, "Liam is such a breath of fresh air. He's been a lifesaver these past few weeks." He grinned. "Stop, you're making me blush." She laughed. Too loud. Too long. And I froze. Because she used to laugh like that with me, the kind of laugh that said, "You see me." Now, she looked at Liam the way she used to look at me, like he was made of stars. 24, maybe? Sharp jawline. Soft eyes. He wore sneakers that probably cost more than my monthly Metro card, and smelled like something expensive and woodsy. When she introduced us, she said, "Liam, this is Chad, my husband," like a footnote, like a technicality. He shook my hand and said, "Man, you're the one funding all this beauty, huh? Respect." I smiled. Tight. Glad to help. But the words tasted like rust. The next morning, while Sophie slept off champagne and compliments, I went out and picked up new brushes she'd been eyeing, the kind with sable bristles and ergonomic grips. I bought her fresh canvas rolls and high-end stretcher bars. She'd mentioned running low a week ago. I left them neatly on the studio table with a sticky note. "You've earned these." No response. No kiss. No thank you. Not even a text. That night, when I came home from grading assignments, the studio door was open. She was working. The brushes were still in the same spot I left them. Untouched. She looked up, distracted. "Hey. Didn't hear you come in? Did you get the brushes?" She blinked, like she had to rewind her memory. "Oh, yeah, that was sweet. Sorry, I've just been caught up. Always caught up. Always somewhere else, even when she was in the same room." Our apartment, once a place we filled with dreams and ramen and lazy Sunday mornings, started to feel more like a gallery warehouse. Tubes of paint on the counter, business cards on the table, flyers on the fridge, and silence between us thick as primer. I'd wake up, she'd be gone. I'd come home, she'd be in the studio or out networking. Sometimes, I didn't know if she was actually home, or just passing through. I started leaving post-its just to prove I still existed. Made dinner. "It's in the fridge. Congrats on the article in NYART. Your mom called, said she cried when she saw the gallery pics." No replies. I'd become a human post-it myself. Stick on support. Peel and discard husband. One night, lying on the couch with my laptop open and work unfinished, I stared at the ceiling and thought, she doesn't see me anymore. Not really. And maybe, worse than being left, was being slowly erased. I came home late, again. I had stayed after class to help a kid figure out recursion. It felt good to be useful. To matter. At least somewhere. The hallway light in our apartment was on but dim. Something felt off. The door to our bedroom was open, and for a moment I thought Sophie might actually be waiting for me. Maybe with wine. Maybe with one of those tired but tender smiles I hadn't seen in months. Instead, I found her zipping up a suitcase. A real one. Not a weekend bag. Not a tote for a sleepover at a friend's. This was a leaving suitcase. I stood frozen in the doorway. "You going somewhere?" She didn't stop. She folded a sweater, the one I bought her 2 Christmases ago, and tucked it in like it was just another Tuesday. Then, like she was confirming the weather, she said, "You know, we haven't really been together for a while now. We've just been living near each other." My mouth opened, but no words came out. Just air. Eventually, I found my voice. "Is this because of Liam?" A pause. A long one. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Silence can be louder than betrayal. "Sophie." I stepped in, my throat tight. "I gave up everything so you could chase this dream. I worked 3 jobs. I haven't had a weekend in over a year. She looked up at me finally. And her eyes, they weren't angry. They weren't even guilty. They were tired. "I didn't ask you to give up your life, Chad." That hit harder than anything else. Because technically, it was true. She never asked. I just did it. Because I thought love meant showing up even when the other person stopped noticing. Because I believed in us enough for both of us. She wheeled the suitcase to the door. I stood there like some idiot ghost in a story already over. "Sophie," I said, voice low, cracking, "don't I even get a conversation?" She reached for the handle. "There's nothing left to say. You'll be fine. You always are." And just like that, she left. She didn't look back. She didn't cry. She didn't even close the door softly. It slammed. That was the last sound she gave me. The apartment was silent after that. Not peaceful, hollow. Her studio corner was still set up. Brushes in a jar. That same untouched pack of canvas rolls I bought her. A Polaroid from the gallery opening stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a tiny pizza slice. She was smiling in it. I wasn't in the frame. The next day, I sat at the kitchen table staring at a spreadsheet. Rent. Credit card debt. A business loan. Supplies I paid for out of pocket. Equipment leases. Most of it in my name. I'd been so focused on making her dream real that I forgot to protect myself from reality. No prenup, no shared accounts. Just blind trust and paperwork with my signature. I remember sitting there with my head in my hands thinking, was I a fool? Or just a stepping stone she needed to reach the next ledge? For days the apartment stayed as she left it, the space she once filled now too quiet, too big. The silence wasn't just absence, It was the echo of everything I'd poured out. That never came back. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. Not forever. Rock bottom wasn't what I thought it would be. I used to imagine it as some dramatic cinematic collapse, screaming in the rain, throwing a glass against a wall, maybe yelling at a taxi that didn't stop. But in real life, rock bottom was quiet. It looked like the floor of my friend Marcus's studio apartment in Brooklyn, a deflated air mattress that hissed every time I moved. "Just until you get back on your feet," Marcus had said, handing me a set of keys and a pack of instant ramen. That was 2 months ago. Now, most nights I lay on that mattress with my knees curled up to fit between 2 cardboard boxes labeled winter clothes and shit I should have thrown out. During the day, I wore a red delivery jacket and biked through the city delivering food to people who had homes, jobs, and someone waiting for them. I didn't mind the work. At least it paid. Some of the bills. I owed too much to too many. And the gallery? That dream had Sophie's name on it, but my name on the invoices. One afternoon it started to pour. Sudden and unforgiving, the kind of New York rain that soaks you through in seconds. I was rushing to deliver a pepperoni pizza to a high-rise in Tribeca. My tires skidded over a slick manhole cover, and the bike flew out from under me. I hit the pavement hard. The pizza box landed in a filthy puddle next to me, spinning slightly like some soggy mocking frisbee. My jeans were torn at the knee. Blood mixed with rain. I just sat there. No one stopped. No one helped. Just cars honking, people stepping around me like I was furniture in the wrong place. That's when it hit me. No one claps for the man who loses quietly. No one writes songs about the guy who gave everything and got walked over, who sacrificed silently and then slipped through the cracks. I didn't want applause. But damn, I wanted something. That night, back on the air mattress, I opened my cracked phone screen and typed into the search bar, "How to rebuild after failure." It led me to a podcast. Then another. Soon I was binge listening while biking. Investment tips. Startup advice. Mental resilience. How to break out of the employee mindset. I didn't have much left, but I still had my mind, my code, my instincts, my ideas. And I still had the dream I buried when I tried to make hers come true, launching my own tech company. Something small. Something mine. I registered for an online startup incubator. A night course run by a group of Silicon Alley founders. The kind of place where half the people wore hoodies and the other half looked like they hadn't slept in days. It was virtual, but I still shaved before every session. It felt like showing respect to this flicker of possibility. During one module, we had to pitch fake ideas to strangers for practice. I remember my palms sweating before I unmuted myself. "My name's Chad," I said. "I want to create a platform that helps blue-collar workers upskill into tech without quitting their day jobs." There was a pause. Then someone said, "That's actually really smart." Another chimed in, "Damn, that would have helped my cousin." For the first time in a long time, I smiled. It wasn't a full grin. More like the ghost of one, but it was mine. Soon I was spending nights in a co-working space Marcus had a discount for. I coded quietly in the corner, surrounded by freelancers, students, and dreamers. There was something healing about being around people who hadn't made it yet, but still believed they would. I started eating real food again, even joined a gym. I'd forgotten how good it felt to move my body for me, not for a delivery timer. My beard was trimmed, my eyes less sunken. I started writing ideas in a journal instead of regrets. No one texted me to say I'm proud of you. Sophie didn't call. The past didn't disappear. But I was no longer just surviving. I was building. Quietly. Steadily. Rock bottom had a basement, but it also had a door. And I had just found the key. 2 years. That's how long it's been since Sophie walked out and never looked back. 2 years since I sat on a busted air mattress wondering how I became the guy no one noticed, no one clapped for, no one stayed for. And now? Now I walk into an office with glass walls, a minimalist vibe, and a view that stretches across downtown Manhattan. My name's on the plaque by the door, Chad Ross, founder and CEO, ClientFlow AI. We build smart automation for customer service, real tools for real businesses. It started with a scrappy prototype and a vision typed out at 3 a.m. in a co-working space. Now we're 12 employees, 2 rounds of funding, and 1 successful beta launch in. I wear hoodies most days, but today I put on the new navy suit I had tailored last week. It's for our first major tech conference. I'm a speaker. Yeah, me? The guy who used to ride around in the rain with soggy pizza boxes? The guy whose girlfriend left him while he was still paying her rent? That guy is gone. But I carry him with me, like a scar that's healed, but still itches when it rains. One night, on a whim, I filmed a TikTok video. Just me, in my living room, talking into the camera. No filters, no edits. 2 years ago, I said, my girlfriend left me after I spent everything helping her build her dream. I was broke, delivering food, sleeping on the floor. Then I smiled. Now I run a startup with 11 employees and we're helping small businesses save thousands. So yeah, failure's real. But so is the comeback. I posted it and went to sleep. By morning, it had over 500,000 views. By lunch, it passed 1 million. People started following, DMing, sharing their own stories. The video wasn't even about tech, it was about getting back up. A week later, I got an email from a Forbes editor. They interviewed me over Zoom, asked smart questions, really listened. A few days after that, there it was. From broken husband to startup hero, how Chad Ross turned rock bottom into a launchpad. I sent the article to Marcus. He just replied with a screenshot of my name on the homepage and 3 fire emojis. That night, I walked into my kitchen, the one I remodeled with my own hands. Exposed brick, hanging plants, warm lighting. A quiet pride filled the air. It smelled like freshly brewed coffee and fresh starts. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. But when I did, the name on the screen made my stomach knot. Sophie. The message was short. I saw your video. I'm proud of you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Another part wanted to say, look at me now. A quieter voice said, she doesn't know this version of you. She knew the version that bent over backwards. That believed love was sacrifice. That worked 3 jobs and got thanked with silence. She knew the man who would have done anything to keep her. But not this one. Not the man who learned how to keep himself. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Instead, I looked at my reflection in the window. The suit. The calm face. The quiet fire behind my eyes. Then I picked up my laptop, opened the keynote slides for tomorrow's talk, and started rehearsing. My first slide read, success isn't built on revenge, it's built on remembering who you are when no one else does. That's what Sophie never understood. And maybe never will. She chose the cafe. Of course she did. It was the same one we used to go to after her art classes. The little spot on Prince Street with brick walls, crooked wooden tables, and shelves full of mismatched books. The kind of place that smelled like old pages and over-roasted coffee beans. I hadn't been back since everything. But when I saw her message, a strange calm settled over me. Can we meet? Just talk, please. I agreed. Not for her, for me. I needed to see with my own eyes what the past looked like when it didn't hold power anymore. I arrived early. Ordered black coffee, no sugar. Sat at the corner table near the window, same as we used to. The seat still wobbled. Then the door opened. She walked in slowly. Not dramatically. No slow motion, no cinematic music in my head. Just a woman in a beige coat, her hair tucked behind her ears, eyes scanning the room. She spotted me. Gave a small, unsure smile. And I saw it. The wear. The cracks in the polish. Sophie had always been beautiful in that curated magazine spread kind of way. Red lipstick perfect, angles sharp, energy electric. But now? She looked tired. Not in the way a person looks after a long day, but in the way they look after too many long days. Eyes dulled. Cheekbones a little more hollow. Her coat, once expensive, now wrinkled and faded at the cuffs. She sat down across from me, clutching her mug like it held more than just tea. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I almost didn't, I replied. A beat passed. Then she exhaled, like she'd been holding something in for 2 years. The gallery didn't make it, she said quietly. The pandemic, the overhead, I tried to hold on, but she paused, then gave a humorless laugh. Turns out passion doesn't pay rent. I nodded. Said nothing. And Liam? She continued, voice catching. He left. Said I wasn't who he thought I was. There it was. The truth. Not as a dagger, but as a slow unraveling. She wasn't here to apologize. Not really. She was here because she thought I could help fix it. You were right, she said finally, looking me dead in the eyes. About everything. I stirred my coffee slowly. She leaned forward. I know I hurt you, I know I broke something I can't undo, but you always understood the business side, the strategy. Maybe you could advise me, or I don't know, collaborate maybe, start fresh? A pause. Then softer. Or maybe just, forgive me. I looked at her. Really looked. And for a moment, I remembered. The girl who danced barefoot in our living room, paint on her elbows, ambition in her smile. The one I believed in more than I believed in myself. But that girl had buried the man who believed in her. And now she wanted a resurrection. I set my cup down. Sophie, I said, voice calm, measured, almost kind. I supported your dream. I gave it everything I had, my money, my time, my belief. I cheered you on when you didn't even clap for me. She looked down. I was your safety net. And when I fell, you let me hit the ground alone. She said nothing. I leaned back. I'm not angry anymore, I said. And I'm not here to hurt you. But I won't save you either. Her lip trembled slightly. I built something of my own now, with my hands, my mind. No shortcuts, no borrowed dreams. She met my gaze again. I can see that. I nodded once. And now, I said, rising from my seat, I'm going to live it. Without you. She didn't reach for me. Didn't beg. Just sat there, small, still, silent, as I pushed my chair back in. As I turned to leave, I glanced over my shoulder. You once told me I'd never make it without you, I said softly. Turns out, I had to lose you to begin. Then, I stepped out into the street. The sun hit my face. It was warm. Crisp. The city buzzed around me, impatient, electric, alive. And I walked forward, no longer dragging the past behind me, but striding into a future that belonged to no one but me. The coffee's still hot in my hand. It's a small thing, but it matters. I'm sitting at my wooden kitchen table in my new apartment, nothing fancy but full of light. The kind that pours in through big windows and lands soft on the floor. There's a plant in the corner I haven't killed yet, and a corkboard on the wall covered in sticky notes and sketches. Ideas, deadlines, launch dates. It's mine, all of it. No more borrowed ambition. No more whispered doubts while someone else takes center stage. Just me, my work, and a life that finally fits. I'm wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt from a hackathon I won 2 months ago. The laptop hums beside me, an open document full of pitch notes for the next phase of my platform. Investors are interested. Real ones. I even said no to 2 of them, just because I could. I take a sip of coffee, lean back in the chair, and look out the window. Down on the street, the city pulses like always. People late to meetings, couples arguing about brunch, dogs pulling their humans toward parks. But up here, it's quiet. Not the kind of silence that hurts, the kind that heals. My phone buzzes. It's a message from someone new. She's funny, smart, and sharp in the way that makes conversation feel like fencing. Fast, playful, and real. We're not anything serious yet. But it feels easy. Like nothing has to be sacrificed just to be seen. I smile. There's still a long way to go. Debt took time to repay. Self-worth took even longer. But I'm no longer building someone else's pedestal while sleeping on a friend's floor. I'm not trying to prove I'm enough by breaking myself into pieces. I'm whole now. Not perfect, but whole. I glance at the corkboard again. The title of my newest project is written in big letters across the top. Start with integrity. I think that says everything. The sun shifts slightly, brushing golden light across the desk. I open the window. Fresh air, crisp and full of promise, fills the room. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel behind. Or small. Or invisible. I feel ready. I look out again and whisper, more to myself than anyone, this time, I'm building the dream, and it's mine. Then I take another sip, and get back to work.